We just saw it come up. Good.
Yeah.
All right, we're here today to talk a little high school basketball, Texas boys basketball. Tim Littlefield. For those that don't know, of course, we're here with TB Scouts, Boris Davis. Just kind of want to talk a little bit about high school basketball coming up. It's been a big day today. Several kids across the country signing their letters of intent. Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA. Some have gotten offers recently, and so we'll touch a little bit on that. Real big day here in San Antonio for Austin Nunez, Jordan Mason, Silas Livingston, and Anariss Brandon, all signing Division I scholarships to go to various universities. And so we'll have those guys on in just a little bit, along with touching on our preseason preview of upcoming season. We got high school basketball starting up Friday evening in Austin. We got high school basketball starting up here in San Antonio and really all across the state of Texas. A lot of big-time scrimmages have been going on. I know they had a big one out in Dallas that a couple of local schools participated in. They had some out in Houston that some participated in. There's also a big event, the opener with Jim Hicks. RCS Sports is hosting the opener. We have several teams from San Antonio actually going out there to participate in that. So a lot to discuss over the next hour and a half. And so in the next couple of minutes, we will have one of our first guests coming on, sign his letter of intent today to go to Arizona State. Austin Nunez will be coming on here shortly from San Antonio Wagner. So before we bring him on, real quick, do you have anything? What have you seen over the past couple of weeks? I know you've been out a little bit. Tell me about what you've seen and what's intrigued you a little bit about this upcoming season.
Yeah, so the scrimmages, is probably the most recent thing. I'm just excited. I'm glad that, you and I are able to get together and kind of just talk a little bit about, what the atmosphere is looking like. I really have enjoyed the scrimmages. The most recent one I was at was just yesterday. It was the one that was over at Cole. And one thing that I like about them that I've been to is just seeing some of the matchups, There was a good matchup. There were some good matchups yesterday, but that's what it's all about, man. I want to see like the top teams in San Antonio playing against them because I hope to see the top players playing the top players. It makes for the best game. So, but I'm excited for the season coming up.
Throughout the fall, that was one of the big things, with a couple of different fall leagues and a couple of fall showcases that went on. I know Alamo City Hoops hosted one here, Great American Shootout. Those guys do a great job. They hosted one here. And then, of course, with Texas boys basketball, we hosted one here as well. And then there were several in Austin. There were several in the Dallas and also around the state of Texas. So when you start talking about matchups, it's big for so many different reasons. Last year, there were a few opportunities there due to COVID. This year, more opportunities kind of presented themselves and coaches had a chance to kind of look at it from a 95, 100-foot view, looking at it saying, okay, what do we want to get out of fall? Do we want to develop our bench? Do we want to develop chemistry? Do we want to be coming into the season all guns blazing? And so they have various, ways of looking at the entire season about how they want to approach it. So with that being said, a lot of teams, have gotten into various events and have put on a couple of different teams in, to try to see what they're going to get out of it. So matchups are everything. Matchups tell you exactly where you're at, what you're going to be, whether you're going to be ready, whether you're going to be a contender. And so, we'll talk more about that. Right now, we want to welcome Mr. Austin Nunez, the newly signed Sun Devil, on the screen right now. How you doing, Austin?
What's up, Coach?
Doing all right? Big day in the
Yes,
Nunez
sir.
household. Big day. Big day. Tell me about it. How'd you feel waking up knowing what today was going to bring?
I never thought this day would come this fast. I've always seen some of my peers sign on this day, older peers sign on this day, and just looking up to them. And for my time to come, I thought it was an honor and just truly a blessing, and just a lot of emotions, just all up, like coming up from today, and just all the hard work I put into the game, just paying off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just kind of watching your process from afar, kind of seeing it, being in the gym with you a little bit, kind of seeing, you grow. Tell me about some things, you're looking forward to at Arizona State. Tell me why you chose Arizona State and how you see yourself fitting in.
I see myself fitting in with the pace of play. I think the pace of play fits me because they like to run up and down and play fast and get open shots. And I think that just fits my playing style, and I can contribute to that. If you know how to play the game of basketball and just know where to be, know where
Austin, you're cutting out just a little bit. Okay.
I was cutting out.
Yeah, no, but you're good though. I heard, the style of play. And then we talked about, how you see yourself fitting in, how they play with multiple guards, the pace and everything. So we were able to grasp that. And so that's kind of leading me to my next question for you. And if you were to share anything with the up and coming people, things that you probably would do differently, knowing what you know now, what would that be? What would you do differently to probably go through some things earlier than you did?
What I would do differently is I would start off with just taking the workouts you like at that younger age more serious. Like I know there's days like when you're tired, days you don't want to be in the gym, but like those days matter, because if you're able to push through those days, then when the days you want to be in the gym become fun, and then when you keep going in the gym, then it becomes fun. So I think like at a younger age, just taking your workouts more seriously is a big part of it. And I also think like body recovery, just because if you want to play this game for a long time, I think that's super serious on just taking care of your body, because you only get one body. So I think that's very important too. And I would say the last thing is just, I would say the last thing I would probably say, I would say, I'll probably say taking the weight room seriously, because if you want to play early in college and not have to work so hard when you get there, it's good to have that weight on you already, and be prepared so you ain't got to work twice as hard when you get there.
It's funny that you say that, because, the program that you kind of grew up in, they kind of hang their hat on that, and the label kind of speaks for itself in terms of hard work. And so with that being said, a lot of guys that have come through that program have said what you just said, as far as taking some things serious that have allowed them to get on the floor at an early age. And that's the thing that I think a lot of times, especially in this area, people don't understand the translation of your body, what that really means. You can talk about being a Division I athlete, or for that matter, you can talk about being a college athlete, but if your body isn't ready, then one, when you first walk in the gym, you're not going to pass the eye test. Then two, when college coaches are looking at you when they're evaluating you, they don't see you as being able to be durable or to be able to last any point in time unless your body's in any type of shape. So I love the fact that you brought that up, because that's a very key thing. Although people need to be understanding that there's also levels to that. You don't want to just start lifting and putting on so much weight too soon. It's a gradual process that people have to embrace. You have to be around people that understand that process. So you can't just go and just jump into any type of weight room or physical conditioning situation and people just think, okay, this is what you got to do. So I think you're dead on when you say that. You got to definitely prepare yourself along the way if that's what your goals are.
Yes, sir.
So tell me a little bit about, I know you guys have had a couple of showcase games up underneath your belt so far. I know you've been kind of licking your chops, having to sit out a little bit last year. So tell me about your approach all throughout the summer and the fall, getting yourself ready for this moment right now.
I just want to just show people that I can lead a team, and just show the reason why people consider me for who I am, or what I can be. And I just want to just take my abilities that I can do on the court and just help my teammates become better. And just, I think if can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
My bad. My coach actually was calling me from Arizona State. But
Tell him to zoom in with you right now.
I got you. But I would say, as far as what I was saying, doing that for my teammates, I think will help us get far. Because I mean, I need my teammates, and I think if we all buy into that, I think we can make a really good run.
If there was one thing I learned about you last year, watching you through the whole process of having to sit out, I try to watch everything and take it for what it's worth. I saw your body language in a couple of games when you're sitting there on the bench in moments when things weren't going well. And I told myself, I said, this is a true team guy. And the teammates were responding to that, even though you desperately wanted to be out there with them to go through the whole situation. You couldn't, so you did what you could do and lend them support from the bench. And I thought that was probably the biggest assist that you may ever be able to give a kid, for the simple fact when you have your Manny Robinsons and you have your other kids looking up to you now, they probably appreciate you doing that for them then when they were going through the heat of the moment than it was if you were on the floor actually with them then.
Yes, sir.
So I think that was really, really big for you to be able to do that. And I think it'll pay big, big dividends for you, because you're right. You know, for you guys to go where you think you would like to go, you are going to need those guys. They're going to need you to be able to play at a high level. And so I just think it all makes sense. It all connects in terms of you being a true team guy and obviously learning that at a young age and being able to go to Arizona State next year with that same mentality. I think it's going to take you really far. So in our interview here real quick with just one last question for you. This is a surprise question. So
I got you.
Who's the best athlete in the family? So, you know, your mom, big time athlete, you know, track athlete, yourself doing well. Your dad thinks he could play. Tell me from your perspective.
I'm not gonna lie. It's probably gonna be my younger brother. I think. I mean, he's definitely gonna be taller than me for sure. And I mean, there's some things that he's doing at his age right now that I definitely wasn't doing. And so I think he definitely has the chance to be the best athlete in the family for sure. Like I don't think it would be close whenever he gets older. I'm not gonna lie.
The table is set for him, though. I mean, you know, the pedigree is there.
Yes, sir.
The pedigree is there. Everybody is lined out. You know, you guys do a great job, you know, putting your head down, you know, keeping the blinders on, staying focused on what you have to do. And that's just a life lesson that I can share with anybody. You know, just stay locked in and do what you got to do. So definitely proud of it. We're all proud of it. You know, it's something to be said to be the top recruit in this area, not just San Antonio, but the entire Austin area. You know, last year, you know, KJ Adams had to carry that label. This year, it's on you.
Yes,
so you have to carry that with big shoulders.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, congratulations to you. We're going to move on to our next guest. If you need anything, always feel free to send a text or give us a call. Let us know.
Hey,
yes, sir.
Real
I
quick,
got you.
Austin, I didn't get a chance to say congratulations to you, man. So happy for you signing today.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll see y'all. Thank you.
All right.
So now we have coming up Texas State signee, and this young man here has come a long way. Probably, arguably, the area's, if not the state's, biggest riser in terms of not only playing ability, but as far as making a name for himself. A lot of people really didn't know up until last year in the playoffs when he knocked down some big shots to carry his team further along in the playoffs, but then they started to hear his name a lot more playing with the Nike Pro Skills group on the EYBL circuit. And so with that being said, we're going to bring this young man on, Mr. Jordan Mason. How you doing, Jordan?
What's up? I'm good. How are y'all?
Doing well, doing well. Congratulations to you and your family.
Appreciate it.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
Big day today. Tell me about your feelings leading up to the day.
To be honest, I mean, I was trying to make it as stress-free as possible and just enjoy it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I had to work out and make sure I had done. I didn't know that it was this much like stuff going into signing, to be honest, but I just enjoyed just the process, like everything about it. Just enjoyed my entire day.
Right. So tell me why Texas State?
I had a really, really good relationship, or I have a really, really good relationship with the coaches. And I could tell from like their first phone call with me that they really wanted me. And that was one of the biggest things that my parents told me is go somewhere that you're wanted. And then as soon as I got on campus for my visit, I fell in love with it. And everybody they're real cool people. And I think that they could really fit, or I could really fit how they play. So it's just a good fit all around for me.
So just touching base on that, you say you really feel yourself fitting in. So tell me about your game within itself, because as I look at it, you know, you're one of those type of guys that is capable of doing a lot. You know, stat sheet filler. I mean, I'm a big fan of guys that fill stat sheets, finding multiple ways to just get the job done. Obviously, you know, sometimes you may not be able to score the ball effectively. Not saying that's you personally, but as a player, if you're not scoring the ball, you know, what else are you bringing to the table? So tell me a little bit about your approach to the game and why you feel like you have to go out and go do the things that you do well.
I think I'm just going to do whatever I have to do to help my team win. So if it's not scoring, if I have to take on a different role, like guarding the best player or rebounding or loose balls, whatever it is, whatever's going to help the team win, I'm going to do. And I just go into the game with that mentality. So I just think that, I don't know. I feel like just going out there and playing hard and just doing what's best for my team helps me a lot in my game.
So speaking of your game, I'm starting to notice something about your game. It's starting to elevate quite a bit. You know, you're playing with a whole lot more bounce. Tell me about that. Tell me about your approach from the time that off-season began up until now, because obviously that's not just something that just happens overnight. Obviously, you know, you're feeling a lot more healthy. Obviously, you know you were capable of those things, but obviously now health played a big factor. You know, not a lot of people really knew what you were dealing with last year as far as playing a lot of games, you know, hurt, playing roughly about 85%. So now everybody's starting to get to see the real Jordan Mason, so to speak. So with that being said, tell me a little bit about you being so explosive. Tell me about your approach preparing yourself for that.
I mean, me and my dad have been – I think that was something I told my dad at a young age was as soon as I could dunk, I just wanted to start dunking everything and playing above the rim. And I couldn't do that before. I wasn't really healthy and wasn't comfortable doing it. And so I got in the lab and was just working on it every day. That just became a part of, like, my daily routine. And now I'm comfortable. So now every chance I get, I'm just trying to get above the rim and play above the rim.
I've seen a couple of games and some fall showcases and different things where I'm like, oh, man. And then I got a clip of a video. I wish I could show it off of the tip dunk in a scrimmage the other night. That was pretty impressive. So definitely impressed by what's going on with you right now. So tell me a little bit about your approach, EYBL. You know, I know you had pondered on it. I know your dad had talked about it a little bit. You know, it was your last summer going in. You had played with some previous teams before, but you had to say, I had to make this summer count. And so tell me about your whole thought process going into the whole EYBL circuit.
I think going into it, I just wanted an opportunity to showcase myself against the highest level of probably AAU basketball that you could play. And I felt like I was ready to make the jump up to that level, and that I saw the opportunity there, and me and my dad kind of just went for it. And there was a lot of ups and downs to it, and I just wanted to stick with it because I knew that I could play on that level. And it was really more of a confidence thing, and being able to just be confident enough to play with those guys was a really good opportunity for me.
Yeah, congrats on that, man. Not a lot of people get to have that honor, during their high school career to play on that elite circuit with an elite team. Probably the most elite team in the country, my opinion.
Well, I mean, that's funny you say that. Young man just signed with University of Kentucky. In my opinion, is probably the best two-way defender in the country. Brings a lot to the table. I mean, scores the ball and then is going to lock you down on the opposite end. So, I mean, he is a tough out. And so with that being said, I think you're on to something when you start talking about the elite level that those guys play at. I mean, they had another kid, Jalen Reed, Florida, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
I mean, that's an elite group within itself. I mean, because Jalen Reed had a heck of a summer, and then we turn around and we're talking to Jordan going over to Texas State, who, by the way, people need to recognize won conference last year. And so that's the other thing that you're going to have to look forward to is continuing their winning ways. So you're doing a great job over at Clark with Coach Celestine. He does an outstanding job keeping you guys prepared. I know you guys are in store for another big season, but obviously, when you guys depart from there, you'll be going off to another winning situation.
Yes, sir.
So here's your bonus question. 1-on-1 right now, game to 3, who's winning?
Me. Me. You don't even have to finish the question. It's me.
Enough said. There it is.
Gotta love that. Hey, man, that's the mentality you gotta have, man. Confidence. At least you got the skill to back it up, too.
Absolutely. Jordan, it's been a pleasure, man. We're definitely going to be following you throughout the season. Good luck to you. Stay healthy, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all for having me.
All right, now, no problem. So now we're going to bring on our next guest, another young man who is kind of coming up under the radar, but has made a big name for himself today and making big changes. A life-changing decision for him today, signing with Texas A&M Commerce. So now we're going to bring on Judson Rocket, Anariss Brandon.
How y'all doing?
How you doing? We're doing well.
I'm doing great. Excited.
Yeah, you should be. It's a big day for you and your family. You got a fan over here, I see.
What's up, man? Congrats.
Thank you.
So tell me about today. Tell me about the whole thought process, leading up. I saw some of it on Instagram, how you had the big ceremony set up where they had all the balloons and the different decorations out in the gymnasium, interrupting the athletic period. I saw that, but, you had to take care of business. So tell me about your day today.
It was good. It was exciting. Ever since I woke up in the morning, I was excited. Got breakfast with my family in the morning, got a haircut as well. Then we headed straight to the gym. And then from there was the festivities. So it was good. We had a good practice tonight too after the ceremony.
That's good. Definitely want to have good practices leading up to the season. So tell me a little bit about your decision, because I know it was a couple of weeks ago you had went on several trips and you rounded it off by going out to West Point, which is a phenomenal situation to potentially go to. So tell me about that visit, and then also tell me about what kind of brought you down to the decision of going to A&M Commerce.
So West Point was great. I mean, the caliber of people was amazing. I mean, some of the best people in the world are there, some of the best leaders in the world. So that was a great experience to go there first. And the campus was amazing out there in the country kind of, but it's it was during the fall. So trees were red and orange, leaves was falling. So it was nice out there. But then but the thing about it was the guys there was great too. Just the team, the environment there was great. But then going to Commerce felt like home. It felt like I was there, enjoying it. At West Point, it was fun, but it felt kind of like a trip. But Commerce felt like home. I felt comfortable being away from my family, being with them guys. So that's and then the atmosphere there. I got to meet with the president of the school and then the AD, which was great. And then having the opportunity to make history. That's big time for me. So that ultimately made me lead up to that decision.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, when he means in terms of making history, he's referring to the fact that A&M Commerce is going up from the Division II ranks to the Division I ranks, which kind of help propel his decision in a direction that he's referring to right now. So just kind of wanted to clear that up for those that might not be aware of their situation going on in A&M Commerce, doing really big things, nice facilities, as he referred to, as far as the coaching staff, those guys, doing an outstanding job of getting out across the state, out throughout various areas, trying to go and find the best players. And so we feel like they've got a very good one coming up here. Anariss has been coming up. Been on varsity for the last couple of years and completing his third, or getting ready to go into his third year on varsity now. So tell me a little bit about that within itself, as far as how you've seen your game grow from year one going into varsity your sophomore year to now actually having to lead your team to potentially getting back to the playoffs. What do you think about that?
So going into my sophomore year, I wasn't expecting to even be on varsity, honestly. I mean, I know I was good and I know I put in a lot of work, but I knew we had a lot of skill coming in that year. But then to be able to be on the varsity and then start every single game that year was a blessing. We did lose Isaiah and Stacy to Cornerstone, which also turned out great in my favor though. And then to start every single game, I believe I averaged about 9.8. And then the defense my defense got better that year. And that was really my role on that team. And then be able to go to the regional finals was big time. It would have been great to go to state, and then going into my junior year, was just a year I really came into myself. That summer was just a grind. Played on the Legends that summer with John Collins, and we was just grinding the whole summer. And then that year was my team. I took over from that year, and I got named the captain leading up to that. And that year was just a takeover year. And then now it's just an exclamation mark now to prove it all. See how far we can go this year.
So you've gone from Anariss now to your teammates call you AB. So anytime you get a nickname, obviously, you've kind of established yourself. So tell me the biggest thing that you feel like where you're at right now from a confidence standpoint, from a playing standpoint, but then also tell me what you feel like you probably need to be more consistent at as you get ready not only to lead your team throughout this year, but moving forward to next year as well.
I think just continue to lead by example and then continue to be a leader on the floor, being vocal all the time. Because now, I'm the oldest now, and I have the most experience pretty much than everybody. So now I got to be a leader, and I got to coach guys up. I can't always just expect them to rely on their own talents, but I got to coach them up. And then, achievements-wise this year, I definitely want to win district for the third year in a row. And then also I want to win district MVP as well, and then win player of the year. Those are some personal achievements I want to get. But overall team success, I want to honestly go undefeated in district how we did my sophomore year. And then leading up to that, I want to go as far as we can in the playoffs. I'll go as far as we can, go out with a bang on my last year.
I got a question. When did you get your first offer? You don't got to say where it was from or anything, but for maybe some of the, players at home that's sitting back waiting for offers, because it seems like you kind of blew up this summer. I was always a fan of you and Judson and all that. And I always thought that you were a real good player, but it was not until recently, because this summer also you went to go play with the Under Armour team.
Mm-hmm. Texas Impact.
So, that got you on some exposure on the big circuit. And I don't know if that's what helped those D1 offers come in, or did you get an offer when you were a junior? Again, you don't got to say who it was from or nothing, but did you get any official offers or any of that when you were a junior, or did they all come within the past few months?
It came the month before. It came in June before the live period. That was when I got my first official offer. I was talking to coaches before that, but my first official offer was leading up to the live period in June
of this year.
Yes, sir.
So what? This is month 11. It's 4 months ago, something like that. Yes, 4 or 5 months ago.
Yes, sir.
That's good, man. It's good to know. I think some people think that they got offers since they were 10 years old, but here you are, a highly sought after, player, and you didn't get your first official offer until 4 or 5 months ago. So that's good, man.
It's a marathon, not a race. I'll tell them that. It's a marathon, not a race.
Absolutely. And that's a great point because everybody's situation is a lot different. A lot of times, to continue to touch on what Boris was talking about players assuming that they're going to get offers. That's not always the case, especially with the transfer portal being the big dog in the building, so to speak. So people kind of have to understand that there's different levels to this thing. So for anybody who is getting some sort of an offer, recognition, signing letters of intent, that is a big, big deal because it's not easy. Those guys are scrolling through the computers, studying film on a daily basis, just trying to find out how to get better. Sometimes that's through the transfer portal. Sometimes it's going to go get a JUCO kid or a prep school kid. Sometimes it's going to go get a high school kid. So it's not as easy as people think it is.
Yeah.
So to your point, it's definitely a grueling process, but definitely one that's worth the wait if you're able to withstand everything that kind of goes on. So in a nutshell, before we get to our next guest, it's the last question for you. Who is Anariss Brandon? Tell me who Anariss Brandon is.
Anariss Brandon's a leader and a teammate, a guy that's going to make sure my guys get involved before myself. I think that's my best quality about myself is I'm a leader. I'm make sure my guys are like, if I'm up, my guys is up with me. That's my biggest quality, I feel like.
There it is. Texas A&M Commerce new signee, Anariss Brandon. Congratulations to you. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me on. Have a good night.
Yep. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
Now we'll bring on our final guest before we go into our high school team and player recognition. Silas Livingston signed with the University of Incarnate Word today. Two-time champ. Go ahead and come on in, Silas. Are you on there with us?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
So what do you want me to call you, Silas, or do we call you champ? What do we call you? Because,
Nah, you can just call me Silas.
Okay. Going back to back, I mean, for me, they would have to recognize that just a little bit. I mean, you guys are embracing on history right now. I mean, going back to back is one thing, but to possibly do it a third time, that's big time. I mean, especially in the state of Texas with how elite the basketball is here in this part of the country, to have state titles under your belt, at least one, is still a great accomplishment. So not to overshadow any of that, let's talk about your personal goals today. Tell me about how your family's feeling, how you feeling about what went on today.
We're feeling pretty good about today, but we know it doesn't stop here. We know we got to keep working hard every day until that day comes and my jersey is called in our college arena.
You're talking like Coach Cantu is behind you, man, telling you what to say or whatever, man. That guy there, Coach Cantu is a really good guy, really hard worker, but he's probably your biggest fan other than your parents.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me a little bit about the fall season. Tell me a little bit about you guys' approach as you guys get ready to challenge yourselves to potentially win 3 in a row. Tell me about how that's been going, knowing that this was already up underneath your belt as far as having a place to go next year.
Yeah, obviously with the start and having different guys, of course, it's going to be a little slow at first, but once we get everybody with the plays and everything, when the team's going to be clicking together, I feel like we're going to make a good run this year, and I feel like we're going to be a top team in the city.
How many new players do you have on your high school team, like that haven't been on varsity yet, that made it to varsity this year?
I say everybody except four of our players, yeah.
So only 4 returned?
Yeah, only 4 returned.
Only 4 varsity players returned, and then the rest are all new to varsity?
Yes, sir.
So who are the 4 that returned? You, Trey?
Me, Trey, Dre, and my brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're working with a new crew then?
Yeah, pretty much, but we looking pretty good right now. We just got some things to work on. That's pretty much it, though.
When you start talking about role players, you have one right there in the house that's really been coming along. It's kind of one of those 24s that we'll talk about a little while. It's really kind of making some noise. It's really kind of making everybody kind of play you guys honest. Obviously, when you have a kid like yourself, a player like, Trey Blackmore, and then who I call a junkyard dog, Dre, that guy makes things happen. So, I mean, you guys are in a really good situation. And, I mean, it would be surprising to me if you guys don't make it back. Obviously, you still got to go out and go play. But things in a good place. Coach Cantu works you guys out really well, and he also put you guys in some really good situations and playing against some competitive teams to prepare you for what your goals are.
Yeah, he does. I feel like the things he teaches us in practice is really important, and I feel like we get better every day, and the harder we work every day is going to be the result outcome of how bad we wanted to win the state championship.
So tell me, we're talking high school right now, but tell me how you see yourself going just down the street to Incarnate Word and what you can bring to the table for those guys, and how do they feel about, you putting your name on the dotted line? How's the conversation been with them overall throughout the year?
Oh, yeah, we've been talking a lot throughout the year, actually. And I feel like they're really excited to have me, and I'm really excited to go there. And I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get on that floor and do whatever it takes to win as many games as possible.
That's good. That's definitely good. So you had one pretty big former teammate signed today as well, Big Vince.
Yes, sir.
You guys stay on the phone with him quite a bit?
Yeah, for sure. Vince he keeps in touch every once in a while, but, he got his little season going on. We got our thing going on. So, but yeah, we still keep in touch and everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a big thing. People don't recognize, how far you guys have come along with Big Vince. A couple of years ago, being a part of this roster, and you guys still kind of maintain your momentum, even despite him, moving on. But it's great to see him still accomplishing great things, and going off doing what he's going to do over at USC.
Yeah, I'm proud of Vince, and I just hope he works hard and stays focused regardless of the distraction. I just hope he does what he needs to do to get to the league, get that money.
So tell me who your biggest fan is. I think I know who it is, but I want to hear you say it.
My biggest fan?
Yes.
Definitely my parents. Yeah, for sure. My parents and Coach Can too. Yeah, he showed me a lot of love, and he really take care of me. So yeah, I say them too.
Your uncle might not take too kindly.
I can't forget about my uncle. No, I can't forget my uncle. Yeah, he's definitely one of my biggest fans too.
There you go.
You see all the little highlight videos he's making.
There you go.
Yeah,
he's putting them out there for sure. No.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they look good. But you definitely have earned everything that you're getting. So you kind of one of those guys. Your mentality speaks for itself in terms of just one day at a time, just going to get in the gym and continue to work. You don't have a whole lot to say. You just kind of just go out and just let your work speak for itself, which is big time in my book. So definitely good luck to you. Congratulations. And we'll be out to see you soon. Good luck to you as we actually will see you this Friday at the Alamo City Hoops tournament. So, good luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, now. Thank you.
Congrats, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, so that kind of concludes our player segment, although we've had a couple of other players. Trey Thompson from San Antonio, Reagan, signed with Lubbock Christian today, along with Kendall Dow. So Lubbock Christian, shout out to those guys coming to San Antonio, getting two really good players. Kendall Dow is one of those very efficient type scorers, can put the ball on the floor, can score from various spots. Trey is just one of those blue-collar kids who are just going to come in and just come to the gym and just outwork you and going to figure out and do whatever it takes to win games. And so he is one of those kids that will fit well in Todd Duncan's system. Todd Duncan goes way back, competed against him a little bit back in the early 2000s when he was at Lubbock Christian High School, actually Trinity Christian. I'm sorry, not Lubbock Christian, but actually Trinity Christian when he was there winning state titles. So he's definitely got a lot of basketball knowledge, and he will have those two guys there going in the right direction. And there's several others. So the market is still out there. You got an open market. You got kids like Marcel Bryan out at Cedar Ridge. You have several others that are here that will go under the radar, so to speak, but definitely are worthy. And we'll talk a little bit more about them here as we get ready to go into our player segment a little bit. So we kind of highlighted on those four players signing, and then, of course, the ones that signed Division II today. But there's so many others that are out there that deserve recognition. One Why they don't get that, I mean, that's just the thing that people are going to have to really kind of figure out. What is your end game? Do you want to be in a position like the 4 kids that we just had online? Do you want to be like the 2 that we just mentioned in Trey Thompson or Kendall Dow and sign Division II scholarships? School is school. School is not cheap. So people have to, 1, be realistic about the levels that they're going to play at or potentially play at, but then 2, get with programs, youth programs, AAU programs that are going to better prepare you for that, for the simple fact that if they're not preparing you for that, then it's not really worth it. They don't have those same goals and ambitions that you have, and so you need to kind of reevaluate your situation if that's the case.
Can I pause you for a second?
Absolutely.
So you said like surrounding yourself with good people and good programs, which is 100%, because all the D1 signees that just came on, they've been playing basketball pretty much with their same program since they were like 10 years old, probably even younger than that. Good point. When you say like, what's the end goal? There's so many people that decide they want to play college basketball, that they want to get a scholarship, doing it when like their senior year is when they make that decision. And that's way too late.
Way too late.
Even your junior year is way too late, because coaches don't even have enough time to meet a new player. It takes them probably a good year just to know who they are, and then maybe a year to start paying attention to them, and then another year to just actually watch them. So just wanted to hit on what you said about, surrounding yourself with the right people, the right programs, people that know where they're going, and then having a goal.
Well, that's just the key, because you talked about people knowing. That's where I think parents, kids, even youth coaches, you have to know your role. You have to know how far you can take somebody. If I'm a youth coach and I'm coaching a kid and I don't have the resources or I don't have the capabilities of elevating certain kids' level of play or putting them in situations for them to better themselves, I need to get out of the way.
Yeah, you need to let them go.
So a lot of that is what holds kids back from growing. There's several programs who get it, that put their kids in the best competitive situation, and it is about competing. A lot of people talk about age. Well, he's 15 or he's 16, he's 17, he's 18. When you're in varsity, they're not looking at age. If you step on the floor, if I'm a senior and you're a freshman, that's just too bad. I'm trying to beat you. I'm not going to allow you to try to make your name off of me. So same thing when you move off to college. They don't care. It's about when you get in between the lines, what can you bring to the table? So how are you getting prepared for those type of situations? If that's what you want to be, if that's where you want to go, then you have to go and embrace that situation. And there has to be some failures involved with that. You have to be willing to fail, understanding that I'm going to get knocked down every now and then, but I have to get up. When you get knocked down, you have to figure out how to not get knocked down again. And then stand up on your own 2 feet and then figure out, okay, how am I going to go and go make a play? How do I contribute? And it's a gradual process. It might be that first year, you might just be strictly a facilitator. And then, okay, a couple of open shots present themselves, knock down open shots. Next year, they might say, okay, I need you to be able to break down the defense and do a little bit more off of ball screen type situations. So it's a process, but you have to be around people that know how to put you in those type of situations and allow you to grow within them. It can't be, okay, Boris, man, he just can't do it and get him off, and then I never give him that opportunity. Well, if that's not meant for him, put him in a situation where he can grow so eventually he can get back to that. Don't just put him in a situation where he's just out there and it's like you push him in the water full of sharks and he either drowns or gets eaten up. Is that fair to that kid? And so those are the things, those are the hard lessons that parents and players have to understand when you go and look at like your Austin Nunez's. They threw him in the water as a freshman. He had to go out and play 17U. Is that for everybody? No, it's not. You could be in an Anariss, Brandon, where you progressively grow into the point to where you're into the leadership role that he's in now. Or you could be a Jordan Mason where you're progressively growing and growing and growing, and then you outgrow your situation. It's kind of like, okay, now I got to go and go find that big pool where I actually fit. And do I really fit So he doesn't know that if he doesn't get out of the shell and say, okay, this is where I want to be. So it's those type of phases that, kind of present themselves differently. I can't go out and go and compare myself to this person, to this person, to this person. Everybody's situation is different. And I think a couple of kids said that on here, that they would do differently is embrace certain things a little bit differently, knowing what they know now. So under the radar kids, players to actually watch. Aaron San Miguel, kid over at Jefferson. Highly efficient scorer, can put the ball in the basket. Caleb Gaskin is a kid that's, really interesting, about 6'6", 6'7", long, can shoot the basketball, needs to get a little bit more physically stronger, but does he bring some things to the table? Absolutely.
And he's over at
MacArthur, right. Then you have him.
So maybe before we dive into some of the specifics, what if we because I just wrote down like a couple of high schools.
We could touch on those. I'm ready for those.
And just like, we don't got to necessarily do like a full blown scouting report. And like for some of them, I may not know all the players, but I just wrote down a couple of names. Maybe I can and you just mentioned one too, Jefferson and MacArthur.
So the thing about Jefferson, people don't know, have been in the playoffs multiple times over the last several years. I want to say regional quarterfinalists or regional semifinalists last year. Play a pretty strong non-district schedule. Saw them just recently over in the fall showcase that we hosted, but then also they participated in the fall league that we hosted, and they got a lot out of it. Kids shoot the ball really well, and they're mentally tough. Coach Art does a great job with them. Art Vela, puts them in situations to see them respond because he knows the end game. He's not just so much consumed with the district play, although his district is going to be pretty interesting, and he'll be the first to tell you that. He doesn't overlook anybody. But the biggest thing with him and his kids is that one-game type situations, when they come in, they knock down shots. And they have creative kids. They have tough kids. They take charges. I mean, they just do what they can. They're not going to pass the eye test. But when they come in at the end of the day, they put up numbers against you, and they beat, some bigger teams, during ball play this year. So, I think that they're prepared to make another run.
Nice. That's Jefferson. What about MacArthur?
Will be interesting. They have a couple of seniors, Caleb in particular, that will have to do the heavy lifting for them. He's capable of a double-double. If he does so, then they get really interesting because in that district itself, you have Brandeis, you have Clark. Brandeis is going to be well coached. Coach Gardner does a great job with those kids. Those kids there, they had to end the year last year playing with the majority of their JV kids due to COVID. So they were one game away from getting in the playoffs, and they would have gotten their older kids, their seniors, back. So it was kind of a win-win situation, if you will, although they didn't win, but they got some valuable experience with the young kids. Those kids now are actually on varsity. So it's going to be real interesting. And now he knows what they're capable of. Like I said earlier, really, really good coach. He's going to have that team, in the thick of things when it comes to district play. Clark will be extremely tough for the simple fact they have quite a bit of experience coming back, including their playmaker, Jordan Mason. So when you have a kid like that, especially in high school basketball, if you have guard play, you stand a chance. And so Clark will be really, really tough in that district. Reagan will be really tough. They'll be well coached by Coach Hurst. Trey Thompson, the kid that we just mentioned a moment ago, signing with Lubbock Christian, and they got a couple of other kids that, play off of him really well. They just play well together. You look at the stat sheet sometimes and you have 6, 7 kids have 8 points each. So it'll be that balance, but they'll go out, play hard, grind it out, and have a lot of fun doing what they do.
So I have just like maybe 3, because I know there's a ton of schools. We probably can't touch base on them all. And plus we're probably running a little bit long, but I have a few schools. I'm going to list them first, and then we can go back and recap them.
Okay.
So Steele High School, O'Connor High School, Warren High School,
Okay.
and then Bernie Champion. And keeping in mind that Warren and Bernie Champion play this Friday also.
Will be a great matchup. Bernie Champion lost to Leander Glenn last year to go to state. They may learn from that experience and potentially get there. I mean, they're another well-coached team. That's the thing about this particular area. Austin and San Antonio, because they're not always going to have the elite athletes or, standout teams, so to speak, all the time. There's some really, really good coaches in this area that have to figure out how to win games without that 3, 4, 5-star player. They put themselves in some really good situations. Bernie Champion will be there in the end, in my opinion. If everybody stays healthy, 6'6" Braden Baum, Jr., think he's got something to his game where he brings a different dimension that most teams can't match up with his size and his athleticism. Then, of course, they got Jesse Pert. Another kid who I like on that team is Braxton Verdict. I mean, Braxton's tough, knocks down shots, does a lot. And, you got the Dudley kid. So they have some things over there on that roster that people will have to game plan for and have to deal with. He mentioned O'Connor. Coach Jawasko does a great job with those guys. Jalen Munoz Jr., solid, tough, knocks down shots. He's got a senior now, Evan Whalen, that another shot maker. I mean, O'Connor is one of those teams that not always, again, going to pass the eye test, but year after year after year, you just start to see them develop, and then they start to play well when it really matters.
Mm-hmm.
The team who you have to really be concerned about is Harlan. Very, very deep. Very deep. Play a lot of different pieces. They could run 10, 11, 12 kids at you, and sometimes they all look the same. They're coming at you from multiple different ways. Coach Hall is doing an outstanding job with that group there. He's been over there 4 years now. They started off in 5A, district champs 2 years in a row. Lost to Wagner 2 years ago in the regional final right before COVID hit. Then last year, regional semifinals loss to Clark. So they will be in the thick of things because they have some decent size. They're athletic. They got Ashawn Holmes, Jaron Hall, 24 kid, Hargrove can get after you. I mean, he's a downhill bulldog that's going to defend you, 94 feet. Zach
Trey
Crawford,
Pullins.
Trey Pullins, those guys present size, and if they can rebound. And I'm just talking in those have to win one game type situations. When you have size, sometimes if you're able to control the glass or get easy attempts, especially in playoff type situations, it kind of helps you. So they'll be really, really interesting. They got, like I said, and then they're young. We're talking sophomores and juniors. So Kalen Hargrove, started for them, as a freshman. So coming in now as a sophomore, gaining valuable experience. And now he's got last year's sophomores that are now juniors. Feel like Ashawn Holmes, is kind of on the cuff. One of those interesting kids, has the ability to kind of make shots, but then athletic enough to get to the rim. And Zach, I saw some things out of Zach Crawford in the fall showcase against one of the groups that came down from Dallas, play with a lot more physicality and passion that I've ever seen out of him. And I think if he plays with that, it makes it interesting. Then, of course, you have Wagner. It's kind of hard to not have those guys on any list when they get arguably the best player in the area. He is the best player in the area. Explosive. Then you add Kevin Garcia to that. Then you get a Manny Robinson, who is now starting to play a little bit cleaner, starting to play a little bit more smoother, understanding his role, knocking down shots. And then they get contributions from some younger kids, including 25 freshman, Marcus Johnson, who, has a chance. He's, probably going to deal with some growing pains. Coach Clark will stay on him, but at the same time, Wagner will be a factor when it's all said and done. They'll be there.
And they have Eddie on their team as well, right?
Eddie Fernandez, knocks down shots. Last year toward the tail end of the year, being limited on depth and different things like that, he had to log a lot of minutes, got hurt in some key situations. I think he's starting to mend back now. And so that's a great name to bring up, because when he's knocking down shots, now how do you play an Austin Nunez or Kevin Garcia if a kid like that is knocking down shots? You have to kind of stay home on those other guys too. And so it gets interesting. So there's some really good teams in the region. Like I said, Clark, Harlan for sure. Then you get Wagner in the equation. And then the young man we just had on said they're trying to repeat this district champions. Judson, Judson will always get up for Wagner. Judson will always get up for their district opponents. So it'll be interesting. You asked about Steele. Steele will be Steele. Coach Hubbard will have those guys flying around, making plays. They have a senior, Eric Brown, who looks the part. He comes in the gym, every bit of 6'3", very athletic, has the ability to knock down shots. Saw them in a scrimmage last night where he made some plays that I hadn't seen him make before that adds more to his game when he's able to really kind of put it down and go to the basket aggressively. He's a different player when he does that, and I think his teammates feed off of that. Pablo Francis, guard that they have, a hard-nosed kid kind of sets the tone for them, and then they have a 24 kid, Max knocks down shots. So you definitely have to worry about him. And then they have, Christian Austin, and they have a couple of other kids, that kind of round out their bench there. So they'll be interesting. East Central will be interesting in that district. They have some younger kids that, if they can be consistent, I think that's going to be East Central's thing, is if they can be consistent, they'll have a chance. You talked about Warren. So Warren has the best rebounder in the area. He rebounds like a madman, and we're talking about Jalen Crockett Johnson. He does a great job rebounding. When he's scoring the ball from the perimeter and on the inside, they're tough to beat. Really solid guard in Xavier Kirk. Strong lefty, gets to the basket. Really, really, really athletic, does some really good things and has a chance to kind of carve out a situation for himself if he's playing consistent, at the right time. Coaches will be out, a little bit during tournament play, trying to see if they've missed on anybody, D2s, NAIAs, JUCOs like that, trying to fill in the gaps, where they may be losing kids, moving on after this year. So there'll be some opportunities for those kids as well. And so you mentioned Warren. We touched on O'Connor a little bit. We touched on Steele. We talked about Harlan, not necessarily a wild card, because like I said, they're probably, from a playoff consistency standpoint, they're right up there with your Jeffersons in terms of consistency, being in the playoffs the last several years. And then, to their point, they play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they feel like at times, they don't get the respect that they feel like they deserve. Other people, kind of get touted as, the teams to beat because of who they play for or where they're at. But, it'll be interesting to see.
So, and we can pretty much wrap up this episode. But before we do that, I kind of want to do something fun.
Okay.
I kind of want to just name drop a couple of people. Can we drop some gems for maybe some of these college coaches? So because they're going to do their own research, right?
Hopefully. And that's the key. It's funny that you say that, because for me, it's to bring those diamonds in the rough out. It's obvious. It's very easy to talk about the 4 kids that came on the show earlier. Those are no-brainers to say, okay, they're going to be on somebody's college roster. To your point, who are going to be those kids that kind college coaches need to pay closer attention to really give a legitimate shot to?
And I've got a few names on my list. I'm gonna just run through them.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say like 1 or 2 bullet points about what my personal evaluation,
Okay.
scouting, my scouting report on them.
All right.
And then maybe you can close the episode with you kind of doing the same thing, listening to like, you know, specifically mentioning some names that you want to give a shout out to that deserve a little bit of attention. And then we'll close it out unless you want to add something else. But I'll just run through my list real quick of some of my, some of my faves.
Okay.
So this is for college coaches. This segment right here is for all the college coaches that's looking for
pay close attention
people to put on your board, and then you go and do your own research. Maybe make some trips down here to San Antonio and see some of the local hoops going on. So I have a few schools that I'm going to list, and a couple of players at each school. I'm going to start with probably one of my faves, Underdogs, Bernie Champion. There, I'm gonna give a shout out to 3 people. I'm gonna say Jesse Pert,
ball player,
6'4" shooting guard, crazy athletic, very efficient shooter, and consistent. If a coach goes to Bernie Champion, they're gonna find at least one recruit because they got a few to choose from. The second one, so that's Jesse Pert. Big fan, 2022, 6'4" shooting guard. Braxton Verdict, another 6'4" shooting guard, built like a Thor, the superhero. You know, he's just ripped. I was watching him play in the scrimmages yesterday. Kid was coming out of nowhere, grabbing rebounds and just.
That's the thing about Braxton, is it not going to necessarily pass the eye test. You talked about him being built like a superhero or a magazine superhero, if you will. One thing that stood out to me, and I've watched him in a couple of different scenarios, is his motor. It's nonstop, and he's very hard-nosed and competitive. He's very competitive, and that's the thing that I like about him. I think between him and then we talked about the Bomb kid, I think those two kind of set Bernie Champion apart. Jesse Pert is solid for sure. Definite shot maker, definitely makes plays for that team. But when you start talking about well-rounded, it's the 2 that we just mentioned.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're saying Braxton and Baum. And also Baum, he was my third one on here, Braden Baum. I like Braden Baum, 6'6", if not even longer than that.
Plays longer.
Yeah, he's stretchy. He's very long arms, everything. And he gets to the basket in unconventional ways that may not look the most like jelly, like picture perfect, but the bucket's going to go in. And he plays hard.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing.
Mm-hmm. All those kids do out there. All those kids do out there. I think that's just kind of their community, kind of their it's their label in that program. I mean, you have to expect to compete when you play that team.
Yep. All right, moving on to the next one. Over at O'Connor, I want to give a shout out to Evan Whaling.
Shooter.
Yeah, and yesterday I saw him play in the scrimmage also, and he was like the leading scorer, and he just dominated. It was just a scrimmage that was playing, but like the first off, O'Connor scored like 40 points in like a quarter. It was a scrimmage game, but they had like high points. Their opponents had like 20 and they had like 50.
They're always going to be, O'Connor will always be one of the higher percentage shooting teams in the area.
Yeah, they had some shooters.
I mean, they do a great job. Coach Jawasko does a great job of player development from that aspect. We'll put kids in those type of situations. They're going to get in the lab. They're going to shoot the basketball. And it could be Evan Whalen one game. It's going to be Jalen Munoz the next game, or it might be somebody else. You can't leave those kids open. They're knocking down shots.
Yeah, they had 3 other kids that I noticed there. I know Jalen Munoz over at O'Connor, Evan, and then but they had a couple other ones. They had some height, like number 21 and 32. I don't know their names exactly, but they got some height on them. They're probably 6. Each one's probably 6'4", 6'5" plus, and everyone was shooting from beyond the arc. And
yeah, they're going to do that. They're going to do that. There'll be a team that'll be there. They'll have a say-so in the playoff race.
And they don't have a lot of like big names on their roster at all. Let's see another one going back to Steele. I want to give social love for Eric Brown.
Mm-hmm.
He is he considers himself a shooting guard.
That's what he is.
But he's built like a stronger player than a shooting guard.
But, you know, when we were talking to Austin earlier, we started talking about that type of build. He will get an additional look just because if I'm a college coach, I'm coming in, I'm evaluating. I'm saying, okay, that kid there, his process is a whole lot less to catch up than everybody else's may be. For the simple fact that his body is already college ready. I mean, he can get in there. He could probably stand to add on another 5 or 10 pounds, but it's not going to be an insurmountable type situation where I got to probably redshirt this kid because he's just so far behind. And that's the other thing that kids don't understand. If I'm physically not fit, you can't think you're going to come in at 125 pounds and play on a P5 level. You're not going to do it. I mean, it's not healthy. Coaches aren't going to do it. So you're right. From the standpoint of his body, he's definitely there. And like I said, I think for the fact that he's gotten in the gym, you can tell he's been in the lab a little bit with the weight room and stuff. It's adding to his physicality to the game. It's adding to him being more explosive. He made a couple of plays at the rim last night in their scrimmage, and I'm like, okay, he's got to do more of that because if he does that, he not only gives Steele a chance to win more games, but he gives himself a chance to get more recognition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've known about him like, you know, maybe for a year. So I wasn't really following him too heavy. But whenever I did see him, I'd always see him like dunking or doing something like that. But more recently, I'm seeing him shoot the ball. And that's where recently I asked him, what are you? He told me he was a shooting guard. And I was like, I always see you dunking. I never see you shoot. And then I seen him shooting.
He's had a couple of games where he's hit 4 or 5, from deep. But, sometimes kids, when they do that, they fall too much in love with that instead of, still playing the game the right way, being a complete player. So I think that's something that he's trying to grow into right now. So we'll see. They're interesting team.
They have another guard over at Steele that I want to show some love to, Cameron Roper. It's like a 6'1" guard.
Hard-nosed defender, will get after you. Can do some things better. But the thing about it is he's consistently coming after you nonstop. Very competitive, makes plays, going to rebound the basketball, going to defend, going to get to the basket. He's going to do all of those things and extra, whatever it takes to win. Rarely see that kid there really kind of complain or get flustered about anything that may not be going his way. So I can see why you want to recognize a kid like that, because he definitely does put them in the conversation as far as being able to match up with people just because of him. Yeah. And
he works hard. He works hard, like you say, still some things to work on to separate yourself. But, I like you mentioned Braxton with his motor. I like seeing kids that are passionate about their craft, that care about what they're doing, that aren't just walking around, that are appreciative when people are trying to help them. They take the feedback. And I think that's just what kind of player Cameron is. It's just he'll listen to you and, he wants to be better. He will tell you he's not the best probably, but he wants to get there. So just want to give him a love. So much
absolutely
love there.
No, that's a good one.
And then the last one, I guess that's on my list. Show a little love to Trey Pullins and the whole Harlan squad. So I like Trey. I know he's a little raw. I know he's young. Doesn't always
getting better
thing, but I like him, and I know that he wants it. Like I know just from conversations that he wants it, and that's one of the things too. Like when we talk about knowing what your end goal is, what your end game is, even if you're not the best player, you can tell by people's actions and what they ask you for help with or what they should do, like what their goals are. And Trey wants to play college basketball.
He has the capability, obviously with them being young, they all have a ways to go over there. And we're talking in reference to the Harlan group. But one thing I think the culture says, we're going to do whatever it takes. And I think everybody embraces that. So I think they kind of have each other's back. In that same regard, he knows what he has to do in order for that team to be successful. And coaches embracing that and also giving him an opportunity to grow his game. I've seen Trey have games where he's had 6 or 7 blocks and 6 or 7 rebounds and then step out and knock down a couple of shots. So it's like, okay, that makes him really intriguing because if you're 6'7", 6'8", you can now step out and knock down 15, 16 footers and then also protect the rim and rebound the ball off the glass like that. Now you become more relevant. You become more part of the conversation. My biggest thing with him right now is probably, figuring out how to put on a few more pounds, not get bumped off the block just as easy, but he is willing and has toughness and will compete. So, that he's part of the reason why I can say they're going to be in the conversation in the thick of things.
Yeah. And again, just showing love to that whole Harlan squad. Zach Crawford, I like him, big and strong, just a big and strong player, like a bruiser. Kaylin Hargrove,
Bulldog.
And he's crazy athletic also. I mean, he's like as tall as I am, but he can dunk.
Dunking the basketball. He's very athletic. He's doing some things now, but then I saw him in a couple of situations really show some leadership skills. It's not always common when older kids that are juniors or seniors respond to you because you're younger, but I've seen him in some huddles recently telling guys to calm down. This is where you need to be. This is what we need to do. And then they turn around right out of the timeout or the dead ball situation and respond. And so when they buy into what your leader on the floor is telling you to do, it makes it easier for the coach. And now you have an incomplete coach. I mean, just kind of getting after it. So, I mean, that kind of helps them when they're all on the same page, believing in one another, and having each other's back. So that's another good name.
Yeah. And then one kind of out of not really mentioned that much, 2023 over at Central Catholic, Connor Castro.
Puts the ball in the basket.
6'5", 6'5". He's a kind of a big guy, but he likes to shoot the ball too. So,
Coach Bruce will be creative and put him in all types of situations to make Central Catholic competitive. They will be one of those type of teams, competing in the division that they compete in. They're going to always be in games because Coach Bruce is a hard-nosed type guy, works really hard after it. And in that community within itself, that's just what they do. They're very blue-collar. They're going to roll their sleeves up and figure out a way. It's not always going to be, picture perfect, but, they'll figure out a way.
Cool. Well, that's everyone that was on my list. I don't know if you have anything else you want to talk about. I know we've been going
there are a couple of kids that are under the radar that will probably be NAIS type level. But again, having an opportunity to go off to school, when I look at like a kid like Shane Perales over at now Somerset, we haven't talked much about Somerset. Somerset beat Wagner in a fall game. They beat a couple of other 6A schools. So I'm saying all this to say is that they lost to Bernie High School last year on a tip head to go to state. You gain a first-team all-district player from a 6A district averaging roughly around 16 or 17 points, and Shane Perales, who helps balance that team out. Before, people would look at that team and say, okay, just shut down Matt Soto. Just shut down Matt Soto. Shut down Matt Soto. Don't let him shoot. Don't let him shoot. Don't let him do this. Matt Soto is more than just a shooter now. He's a team guy, can facilitate, can run a team, but it's also going to knock down shots. They got a kid, Christian Rodriguez, about 6'4", 6'5", just going to grind it out, can step out, hit the three, but then also, roll to the rim, make plays. And then when you add Shane into the equation, I mean, you could potentially be looking at a state tournament contender. So, I mean, they have a well-rounded out team that will probably be better when they get a couple of football kids, but they're already pretty reputable right now in terms of what they do. So they're pretty solid. We were talking to the champs earlier, Cole. Can't forget the other champs, Antonian. They have a freshman on their team, Isaiah Fox, who is pretty solid. Makes a lot of plays. Coach Bernal, Coach Jackson puts those guys all in really, really good situations. And then they have a really, really cerebral guard in X Martinez. Xavier Martinez is really, really solid. He's one that really kind of deserves some type of college recognition. When you look at him, even from an NAIA Division III level, I hate to put levels on kids, but the reality of it is with the way things are. And then, like I said earlier, the transfer portal and other different things, that are going on, these kids can play. I mean, there's a similar kid like that, and Isaac Orozco that's over at TOU right now. They're starting and playing, really good minutes and doing some really good things for them. Same type of kid. Xavier knocks down shots, understands the game, really good ball handler, but really good passer. Sees the floor and just really kind of knows what's going on. And so that keeps Antonian in the equation. And then they have a returning starter in Santiago Ochoa, at 6'3", 6'4", really good size, has ability to kind of get to the rim. And so when we add in the freshman, Isaiah Fox, who we were talking about, that kind of helps balance out that team. A couple of other kids, when we start talking about names, Desmond Dudley. I don't know, people don't talk about John Paul enough, but they're solid. They've beaten some teams and they have a really strong schedule. I think that they're going to make a mark in the TAPS playoffs when those things roll around.
And I'm happy for Desmond Dudley. He got a couple offers.
Recently, I saw Dean had offered him, and then also Lady the Lake, which are both programs that, he would go in and play well with. And so it's good to see those type of programs that are keeping their nose to the grind, getting out, going, seeing players like that for the simple fact that they can contribute to their situation. You can't go out and think you're going to be able to go get all these kids here or think that, okay, these are 5A and 6A kids over here and I don't have a chance. Get in the gym, and do your homework, do your research on these kids like we're doing, and find out who can actually help your program win, because some of these kids can help you win some games. So I definitely agree with their decision in offering him because he's definitely worthy. John Paul as a team can definitely play. Peyton Reimer is another kid that's kind of coming along for them, knocks down shots, but then also is now starting to put it on the floor and get to the rim a little bit. A kid that I think colleges need to take a look at is Kishan Napoleon over at Lee. 6'5", 6'6", really athletic, can do some things, 15, 16 feet in. So he's kind of one of those that is very intriguing. He can win games for teams for the simple fact of how he rebounds the basketball, how he runs the floor, and how athletic he is. And I just think the more he's around college level type players, it may only elevate him even more. And so
I'm a big fan of Kishan.
He's another kid that's kind of coming on. We talked about Caleb Gaskin his a little bit earlier. Dion Williams over at Brennan. Mm-hmm. Heck of an athlete, that's expanding his game and starting to now put it on the floor and shoot it a little bit. Jumps out of the gym early on in his career. He played a lot back to the basket type stuff, but has now kind of bought into what Coach Cowgill teaches him over there and is really kind of expanding his game. And so now for years, he was kind of looking up to various guards that they had on the floor. Now he's like the lead dog on that team from a leadership standpoint because he's on the floor with a couple of freshmen that are going to make some noise this year in Kingston Fleming and Cam Cowgill. Brennan, although being young, will have a lot to say in terms of the district race or whether or not they get in the playoffs. That district over at Northside with Harlan, Brennan, and Warren and O'Connor, Taft is interesting. It will be very competitive down to the very end to see who actually gets in. But those freshmen, with Kingston Fleming and those guys, they will play a key part in seeing how early they respond to varsity district play and teams game planning for them. How well they respond to that is going to be key. Another kid who doesn't get enough recognition is over at Sam Houston, Aaron Harden. 6'6", athletic, can step out, shoot the basketball, but is now starting to kind of come into his own, doing some really good things. So that's that group there. Then, of course, Alamo Heights is interesting. Chico Strash. When I saw Alamo Heights a couple of weeks ago, and I know we're getting ready to wind it down, that group there has been in the weight room. They had a brand new facility built, and you can start to see when kids have their own things. It's kind of like, in your own neighborhood, but you don't have a basketball goal. So now you got to go out and ask somebody else to use theirs. Now they kind of have their own stuff. And so now you can see that they've been in the lab a little bit, knocking down shots. You can tell they've been spending, countless hours in the weight room doing some other different things. So, that'll be a team that will to win some games. And it'll be interesting, as we touch base next week after going to opening week, I'm going to watch the Concordia Showcase. So that's essentially an Austin, San Antonio thing. So next week we can touch on more Austin players and schools in that area because they have some under the radar type kids as well. That'll be interesting. Maynard, Westlake, all of those kids. Maynard is going to be an interesting team, out of the Austin area this year as well. So, and the thing about it, some of those Austin districts come this way. We haven't even talked about, San Marcos, some of those kids they have, they're loaded this year. And so, I'm thinking that they may finish no less than second in their district, but it'll be interesting to see, how all of that pans out. But, love the show. Love the kids actually coming on here, getting to experience signing day with them, to see them, have life-changing moments. I mean, it's their story. They'll have to embrace it, and take it off and run with it. So looking forward to seeing how their chapter continues to evolve.
Yeah, man, great conversation. Like you said, we'll do it again. We'll touch base here, about a week or so after we've seen some of these opening games and just talk about it, get some feedback. So
another kid real quick is Trey Blackmore. That's the one that kind of has everybody kind of like, okay, what's going on with him, this or that. For those that are watching or paying attention, whatever, Trey can play. There's no doubt about it. People kind of have their reservations because he was out during the summertime. But truth of the matter is, I've seen this kid, fully healthy. I mean, he's getting after it. I mean, I've seen him, matter of fact, this summer in summer league games against, some of the bigger schools, he had some pretty big games. And so, playing above the rim, still learning how to, still do that more consistently, but then definitely can get his own shot, knock down shots, and then also, putting weight on, so which is allowing him to play on both ends a lot more physical. So he's definitely a kid that deserves more recognition than what he's getting.
That's funny because he can play, and it's almost like I believe Trey can play too. I saw him just yesterday. He's a baller. But as you were talking about people not getting as much love and have their reservations and not sure about this, like I thought about another player, Jesse Pert. Like Jesse and Trey, like I don't know why people are confused. I don't know what they like. What are they confused about? What do they need to see more of? Because those are two like players that, from what I've seen, they shouldn't be a question. But obviously, not everybody sees everything. Like for instance, you've seen Trey play. You would put your name behind Trey and say he's good. But there's some people that have reservations. Me, I say Jesse can play, but some people may have reservations. So what can those players do, or players like that?
Great question.
What can they do to help people not have so many like curiosity if they can play or not?
I would say consistency against your elite competition. And when you talk about that, when you say it, it's like, okay, you may have seen it. It's always right place, right time. That's why film is so big, doing it consistently against elite players. So that's why being on the right teams matter, playing on teams. So Cole has no issue with that because they go out schedule all of the top 4A, 5A, 6A. They're going to play whoever to try to figure it out because they could care less. Coach Cantu's going to be like, okay, we're 0-10 in non-district play, but we're 10-0 in district play. Let's go to the playoffs at 10-10. Let's see what happens. I'm better prepared versus the team who says, you know what, I want to be 30-0, and some of my better players are playing against who knows who. Who have you played against? So who are you doing it against matters. All day, every day. Who are you doing it against? So I would say for those two players, it's consistency and then do it when it matters. So when the lights come on, so tournament time, you're playing against multiple classes, meaning you're going to play against some of your better 5A, 6A teams. You got to win those elite matchups. consistently. Don't just say, okay, I had 30. Well, who was that 30 against? Because if you did it against this guy over here, we don't even know who this guy is. Oh, by the way, everybody gives that kid 30. Do it against that kid right there. And then now we can get in the conversation.
Yeah. No, you can't. You're 100% right, man. It's the matchups. Like you said, who you play against matters.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. But again, appreciate it, man. Always good visiting with you, and we'll do this soon.
Yep. Peace out, y'all.